Season 2, Episode 3, Aristotle. Aristotle remains a practical voice in ancient philosophy. The idealism of his teacher Plato was transformed by Aristotle into practical solutions to difficult moral questions. In his book to his son, Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle agrees with the need for virtuous behavior. However, he emphasizes the practical steps to achieve many virtues. He uses courage as his first example. Courage is developed by habituating the journey between protecting oneself and protecting others, with a lean toward protecting others. These two opposing yet interconnected moral actions we will define as a complement. A complement is further defined in a simple form as at least two distinct parts needed to complete the whole. For example, a ship's complement of officers and seamen is needed to run a ship. Returning to Aristotle's development of courage, courage may be found by acting rashly, potentially harming oneself by trying to protect others in one instance, and then acting less rashly or more cowardly by protecting oneself the next time. During another instance on the journey of life, courage may be developed by acting like a coward, protecting oneself due to the lesson of the previous experience, and then acting less cowardly or more rashly the next time. A life exhibiting courage would consist of innumerable experiences of struggling between these opposing yet interconnected moral actions. Aristotle teaches us that the courageous action lies between the two extremes, yet leans into one, the one that contains more potential or actual pain, the marker of improvement that the athlete knows so well. As wisdom develops from actions in potentially courageous situations, the courageous person is one who acts well in situations where courage is needed to protect others, even if it is painful. The soldier oscillates between the complementary pair of protecting oneself and protecting others, until excellence is found by leaning into protecting others whenever possible, and protecting oneself when necessary. Aristotle's method of the mean needs to be recovered anew in this generation that hears many voices encouraging the virtues. However, the listener to many modern scholars is often also missing the pathway to activate virtuous behavior. A modern scholar, Vicki Lachman, a scholar focusing on the nursing community, notes that the nurse must employ an Aristotelian form of practical wisdom in the challenging situations of healthcare. Lachman's apt use of courage to stimulate the nursing community's moral imagination is a crucial early step in improving any moral setting. Lachman is representative of many modern scholars who implore others to virtuous behavior. Like Plato before her, she too implores her readers to live out wisdom in healthcare settings. However, she suffers from the Platonic problem of ideals without a practical mechanism of attainment. She also notes the need for moral courage, yet lacks a practical mechanism for building courage. Lachman illustrates a typical moral recommendation with a chronic problem in modern medicine and other social settings: the recognition of a moral need, the courage to inform our moral imagination to improve the setting, and yet a failure to build a practical pathway of action other than imploring others to strive for the ideal. The thesis of this paper is that a practical pathway is available through the awareness, implementation, and assessment of moral complements to achieve necessary individual virtues and social values. The other term we could also use is symmetrical pair. And symmetrical pairs are what we'll be looking for in the next section. And holistic, symmetrical bioethic. The preceding background will help inform my proposal for an holistic, symmetrical bioethic, a new yet ancient moral philosophy for healthcare. I propose we move beyond the 4 Platonic-style principles as defined by Beecham and Childress to 4 Aristotelian-styled dynamic equilibriums. A dynamic equilibrium is the moral oscillation between the parts of a moral complement that a wise agent negotiates in the moment of action. When we build this base, we will recognize that our pandemic-induced shift of moral principles is an oscillation between individual-centered healthcare principles and community-centered principles. 4 has always been the number of completeness for humanity, so we will define 4 dynamic equilibrium. 4 dynamic equilibriums. 4 dynamic equilibriums are proposed. First, care is in dynamic equilibrium with detachment. This equilibrium exhibits the duty of healthcare professionals to aid another person, a potentially painful experience, in dynamic equilibrium with one's duty to withhold care in triage situations. Second, autonomy is in dynamic equilibrium with interdependence. This equilibrium oscillates between the duty to offer self-rule in dynamic equilibrium with the duty to facilitate being ruled with and by others. Third, beneficence is in dynamic equilibrium with nonmaleficence. This equilibrium defines the duty to do good in dynamic equilibrium with the duty to do no harm. Fourth, and finally, justice is in dynamic equilibrium with righteous indignation. A person oscillates between the duty to determine a strong communal sense of rightness in dynamic equilibrium with the duty to facilitate a strong individual sense of rightness. These 4 equilibriums are built on the Beecham and Childress principles. However, equilibria begin to address the problems of only proclaiming the static principles without adequately constructing practical pathways. End of episode 3. Next time, we'll deal with the problems that we see in the 4 static principles, starting with autonomy. Join me.